I'm Brail from Sonoa Systems. We're here to talk about some of the challenges that people face when they build APIs on the internet. An API, in this case, we're talking about a web service that you're going to expose to the internet, something you do with HTTP and XML or JSON. Often you'll see great examples of APIs out there. The Twitter API, which is getting huge amounts of traffic right now. APIs come from Google, Yahoo, Amazon, LinkedIn, you name it. And it's gotten to the point today where any reasonably successful web property needs an API in order to compete with everybody else out there. Well, what are some of the things to think about when you're actually going to put an API together? And we divided them into a couple different categories here, and this is kind of how we think about things here at Sonoa. First of all, we talk about visibility. Oftentimes we'll hear a customer tell us, we've built an API, we don't know who's using it. And it's not just a matter of looking at the amount of traffic coming into various URLs or IP addresses, but it's which users are using your API. What are they doing? What kind of response time are you addressing, are you giving your users? This is a very important consideration and one which we're going to be able to explore in more detail in the next video. Another huge issue for people is security. It's a word that probably won't fit on the video. Authentication, authorization, auditing. Who is using your API? How do you ensure that the people using your API are authorized? And it depends on the kind of API whether this is important to you. Sometimes your purpose of having an API is in order to, perhaps for marketing purposes, you want to have a very open API. Let anybody in the world use it. Look at some of the Yahoo Maps APIs, for instance. They drive traffic to the Yahoo properties. They're not interested in making sure that only authorized users can use Yahoo Maps. On the other hand, if you're offering an API for your stock account so that you can buy and sell stocks, it's pretty darn important that only authorized users be able to access their own account. Another example with Twitter. Twitter's got an API. It would certainly be a disaster if anybody could say they're Lance Armstrong. So, here's an example where security is very important, and there are a lot of different options for doing security in an API. And we're going to be talking more about some of the various options, such as HTTP basic security, OAuth, the use of API keys. Another one that comes up, of course, is traffic. How much traffic is going to be driven to your API, and how do you know? You're going to be putting this thing on the internet. Are you going to get huge spikes in traffic? Is your response time going to be lousy? Is it possible that maybe somebody, either on purpose because they're doing a test, or on purpose because they're trying to hurt you, or by accident because they made a mistake, might end up driving so much traffic to your API that you're getting lousy response time for everyone else? Do you need to have some sort of rate limit or some other mechanism in order to prevent that from happening? Or is your goal to not worry as much about that and essentially accept spikes as they come? There's a whole lot of questions to be asked about all of these things. Other things to think about, also, the idea of scale. How are you going to make your API scale? What kind of infrastructure are you going to put in place to serve up the API? And what other technologies can be used, such as caching or traffic management, to ensure that you continue to give good response time even as you're scaling? These are the kind of issues, the kind of considerations people need to take into consideration when they're working on an API, and here at Sonoa, we're trying to help people with